Craig, if you had to rate in terms of who's had the most productive plays at quarterback, who's it been?
I think that would be Keenum.
Yeah.
But if you're going like explosive plays, it's Haskins.
Right.
But there's also the negative plays that kind of negate and overwhelm all of those explosive plays. But yeah, Keenum consistently moves the ball forward. He's had some interceptions. Some of them have been bad luck.
He's got to be the guy then.
Has Colt led in any department?
I think early he did. Like, when you guys were down there and I told you that Colt was the number one quarterback, it's because Colt led in that department. Colt was consistently moving the ball. Case would get stuck a lot. But that's kind of come back to earth, and also Colt's interceptions have picked up. So I think that Case right now is just the most consistent guy, but it's not like Case is going out and winning the job.
Right.
Colt's kind of lost it temporarily over the last week. Again, there's still a lot of this to go, but right now, clearly Case is the most consistent, and on some level, he's just the one who's going to mitigate the damage the most. And if you can play this field position game with the defense they have and the running game they're going to have, that's how they're going to win football games.
Which wide receiver is making the most big plays?
McLaurin. Not even close.
Really?
He had another one the other day where that was actually Colt's best play of the day the other day, or yesterday, when he finds McLaurin deep. His speed matters. And I think they are almost a little freaked out with how good he is. They drafted him with the idea that he's the best special teams player in the draft, who would be a rotation level receiver in the first couple of years of his career, at the very least his rookie year, and he's going to wind up starting at receiver and maybe being their best one. He's way better as a receiver than I think they imagine. And we'll see if it can carry over to games, but in practice, his ability to run away from people, whether it's vertically or horizontally across the field, has led to any other. Cam Sims is next, but McLaurin is the runaway winner in the big plays category.
Could they start McLaurin, Richardson, and Quinn?
Yes, and I think that's what it's going to wind up being. The benefit of all three of those guys is they can all play all three spots. They can all slide inside of the slot, although Trey will be the guy who does that in almost all of formations that have those three guys involved. And then you have, both Paul and Terry can play both spots because they're both so fast. I think what you wind up doing is you put McLaurin in Doxson's spot and let Richardson play what they call the Z, which is off the line of scrimmage, so you're not facing as much press coverage. It's typically on the same side as the tight end. They can flip that, but it allows Paul to kind of do the things that he's great at, where McLaurin is strong enough to do the things he needs to and play with power at that position, while also still obviously using his speed. It doesn't magically go away because of the letter that he's technically lined up as.
All right, so during the first preseason game, I was on vacation. I was actually at a restaurant having dinner, and the bar behind me had one television, had the game on, so I could barely pay attention. But clearly you could see the left side of the line having issues. I believe Christian started, right? And Eric Flowers played at guard. But then it looked like Donald Penn was even playing late in the game. How did Penn do versus Christian? And then how are those reps breaking down in practice?
They're pretty even in practice, which is what they were in the game, which was interesting because even in the second half, they were rotating those guys series by series, which I didn't really anticipate happening. But typically, like, you go with one and then he comes out and you go with the other. But whether it was to kind of keep those guys a little bit fresher, or I don't know exactly why they chose that way to rotate the reps, that's what they did. In those reps, Penn looked better than Christian, without question.
Right.
But I don't think that it's locked up by any means, and I don't think that all of a sudden Donald Penn was so good that they don't care if Trent Williams comes back. So, clearly that's the best option at left tackle. I'd say for right now, Penn is the next best bet, and then we'll see from there. We'll see if Christian can close the gap as he continues to get work. He struggled a ton against Myles Garrett, but so does everyone because Myles Garrett's a freak of nature. And we'll see with Penn, if he gets a chance to play Thursday night against Cincinnati's ones, what he looks like. I would start Penn on Thursday just to see that. And maybe even rotate those guys. But I want to see him against the top, best competition. Obviously he's getting Kerrigan and Sweat and all those guys in practice every day. But it's a little different against someone else when the threat of the guy across from you actually hitting the quarterback is real.
Do you expect any of the studs that didn't play or barely played to play on Thursday?
Yeah, I think like the starting defense will play. I think that Reed might get held out just for precaution basically the entire preseason.
No
I'm sure
sense,
he
right?
wants desperately to play, but there's no point in playing him. He looks so good right now that he's going to go out there and be fine week one. I don't think there's any need to play him in the preseason. I think basically everyone else plays. Like I play as long as his ankle or not bothering him. And then you know guys like Allen, Ioannidis Payne, Richardson, Doxson, all those guys that didn't play in week one, I imagine get a little bit of time in week two. And again, part of this is the quarterback thing. Like you got to evaluate the quarterback with your guys. And so I'd imagine that Jay wants to see Case Keenum and Colt McCoy throw to some of these guys, which also makes you wonder, A, how long are they going to stay in, and B, how do they rotate the quarterbacks? Do they do a little bit of both, where they both get a series or two with the ones and then a series or two with the twos, and then you give Dwayne the entire second half?